Hello everybody, my name is Megan and welcome to my May 2022 reading wrap up. So, May was an interesting month. We had the Royal Readathon throughout the entire month. We had the final book support group in the first 2 weeks, and then I was on holiday for the last 2 weeks and took no physical books with me because I bought many while I was over in America. All will be linked down below if you're interested. So, there were challenges for the Royal Readathon. Do I remember what they are? No. Should I have looked this up before I started filming? Yeah, but it's fine. We'll figure it out as we go along. So, I've read, I think, 20 books, but it might be 19. Let me double check. 20 books. That wasn't the plan, but I read a lot while I was chilling around a pool in LA. So, and like none of the books that I read there were ones that I was, actively interested in before going. So, love that for me. Let's see if I have a screenshot of the Royal Readathon prompt. I thought I did. There we go. So, the first prompt for the Royal Readathon was Mulan and Chang, a book with LGBTQ+ rep, which I read the Hollow Heart by Marie Rapsodic. This is a book featuring sapphic characters. We have a female-female relationship as our main romantic plotline in this, and I gave this 3 stars. This is a sequel to The Midnight Light, which I really enjoyed. I give like 4.5 stars, and a companion duology to the Winners trilogy, which is like a 5-star all-time favourite series for me. This one was really disappointing. It continues on directly from the events of The Midnight Light, in which we follow Sid and Nareem, who meet in jail and then explore the like hidden secrets of Nareem's city while Sid is a visitor, and this follows directly on after a lot of crazy things happen at the end of that book, and I was really hoping we'd get sort of more romantic tension and angst, and instead we didn't really get that. We got like a mystery, like the plots were separated for a lot of it, and I didn't really get what I wanted out of it, but I'm glad I read it and finished out this duology, so I completed 1 series for the final book support group. Next prompt was Ariel and Eric, a prompt featuring sailors or mermaids. For this I was going to read Ship of Magic, and then I just didn't want to. So instead I read The Ocean Squid Explorers Club by Alex Bell, which is a middle grade book. I read this on ebook, audiobook from Squid, and it follows a mermaid, or a half mermaid, who goes on an adventure because she wants to be part of the Ocean Squid Explorers Club, and it follows directly on from the events of the Polar Bear Explorers Club, but with a new set of characters. And I really enjoyed them, and it's 4 stars. It's like a fun middle grade series that I'm probably going to carry on with because they are just like fun and like nice. And then our next prompt is Belle and the Beast, a book with forced proximity. Was The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson, which I did read. Forgot about that. Which takes place at a summer camp, so it is forced proximity. This is a book about Stevie, who got accepted into this fancy academy because she's good at solving mysteries. Had a whole trilogy where she's like worked at solving the mystery, and now we sort of seem to be getting one-shot mysteries, and I'm excited about them. I enjoyed it. It was 4 stars. I think it was a little bit rushed and the romance didn't hit as much as I wanted it to, but overall it was a good time and I flew through this book. It didn't complete a series, but it got me up to date, and so did the previous one. It's like, yay for final book support group. Next is Aurora and Prince Philip, a book with secret of forbidden love, and for this I read The King of Crows by Libba Bray. Let's take that bookmark out of there because I did listen to this on audio. I just put the bookmark in for like fun, I guess. So this is the concluding novel to the Diviners series by Libba Bray, which follows a group of young people in like the 20s New York who all have special powers and are called Diviners, and they are hoping to stop the King of Crows, who wants to gain enough power to enter our world and sort of drain it dry. And they're really atmospheric. I think they're really well written. The audiobooks are fantastic. This one felt like a little bit rushed and didn't quite hit me the same way the others did, but I still enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars, and I'm going to let it sit for a little while longer. But yeah, excellent. I'm really glad I finished off this series, and like I'm really glad I got these beautiful fairy loot editions. They're just so beautiful. Okay, next we have Rapunzel and Flynn, a book with adventure. Now for this I was going to do Baptism of Fire by Andrea Sabkowski, the next book in the Witcher series that I own, but I just didn't get around to it, so instead I put Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett for this one. I read this on the plane home because I downloaded a couple of BookBox books on audio on Scribd, and this is the only one that worked, but I actually really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with this. This was 4 stars, but I think depending on the sequel it could be bumped up to 5, like if things, it's only duology, so if things like round out well, like it could overall be like really good. I don't know. So I don't really know how much I should say about this because it is quite chunky, and I have talked about this in my BookBox book backlist video. So it's about a girl, Kate, whose father was a traitor, and she was, you know, just a little bit in love with the crown prince, and then he didn't help when her father was convicted of treason and put to death, and then they run into each other again. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. There's like magic, there's like condoned magic that mages do that's like really expensive and sort of ruining the kingdom a little bit, and then there's magic that's forbidden, and Kate has the forbidden magic where she can like talk to animals. It's a little bit like the Wit in the Farseer Chronicles, but there's sort of different branches of it, and like, other people can do things that are different, and I really enjoyed this, and I am looking forward to reading the second book. Sad I won't be able to get a pretty matte sprayed edge edition, because I have seen the sequel and it was shiny, and I hate shiny covers of books when they could be matte, but it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I really recommend this one if anyone is looking for sort of a backlist YA fantasy. This one really worked for me. Okay, so the next row readathon prompt, we had Tiana and Nivea. So that didn't do anything for final book support group. That in fact started a new series, but we're not talking about that. That's fine. So the next prompt is Tiana and Naveen, a book with enemies to lovers, and for this I picked up Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the concluding book in the These Violent Delights duology, which is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920s Shanghai with like a mild supernatural spin. So obviously Romeo and Juliet retelling, we have enemies to lovers, and oh, the romance in this, it's top tier. This was 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed this. The romance, like the romantic angst and tension moments. Miss Chloe Gong knew what she was doing. I think the plot was a little bit weaker in this one, and that like the pacing was just a little off. Like the beginning was sort of really slow, and then everything came to a head. And I think if it had just been dragged out a little bit at the beginning, like dragged forward even, then it could have been like 5 stars. As it was 4.5 stars. I've been thinking about some of the moments in this book ever since they happened. I highly recommend this duology. Okay, next we had Cinderella. Yeah, Cinderella and Prince Charming, a book featuring a ball or a party. For this I have Gone Men's Vicious by Ve Schwab. This is a book about Victor and Eli, 2 college roommates and friends who become slightly obsessed with extraordinaries, who are people with extraordinary abilities, and figure out how to become them. And then between that happening and the beginning of the book, something massive happens in which they're now enemies. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved the split timeline element, so we were constantly sort of on the edge of our seat, like guessing what was going on. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the characters, had a really good time, and there was very briefly a party in this that's sort of a catalyst. The event is a catalyst for certain aspects of Victor and Eli's life and friendship. So yeah, this was 4.5 stars, really enjoyed it. Happy I finally got around to it. And the final Royal Readathon prompt was a book that makes you laugh. Anna and Kristoff, a book that makes you laugh. And for that, I picked up Aurora's End by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. There is a bookmark in this, but that's because it came with the Goldsboro edition. This is a concluding novel in the Aurora Cycle trilogy, and yeah, this was 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It went places I wasn't expecting. We had like time travel in this, which was a surprise. The character dynamics are really fun. I think the time travel did make it a little bit harder to get into, just because the characters were split up and you just wanted them to like be together, and some of the romantic relationships felt like a little rushed. Like there wasn't quite enough build up for me. It just sort of happened. Everyone was too horny all of the time. Like, I'm sorry, the universe is ending. Like, please show some decorum. But that's just me. But yeah, 4 stars. Enjoyed it. Glad I finally finished this trilogy. It's my least favourite of the Amy Kaufman Jay Kristoff offerings. Like, Illuminae is definitely my favourite. And I definitely prefer the sort of sci-fi romance angle that Amy Kaufman takes with Megan Spooner. But again, that's a me thing. Most people seem to prefer the Jay Kristoff Amy Kaufman offerings. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It's fine. But yeah, this finished our trilogy, so final book support group and Royal Readathon smashed. So I didn't read any other books that would be useful for the final book support group or the Royal Readathon, but I did read a lot more. So I read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I gave this 3 or 4 stars. It was interesting. I'm hoping to reread it soon because there is like a video idea I've got about it that I think would be fun, but like I'd need to refresh myself and like make notes rather than just listen to it on a train, hope for the best. So that was good. I'm glad I read a classic. And then I read Letter to a Bigot by Miriam Gerber, which is a letter to a former governor who has died, and it was really interesting. It was just saying, you laid all this groundwork for all the terrible racist homophobic, just awful things that are happening now. This is all your fault. How could you do this? And it was, I'm assuming, a very cathartic letter for Miriam to write, and it was really engaging, and difficult to say I enjoyed it, but I appreciated it for what it was. So I'm glad I read that. And then we move on to just all of the Kindle Unlimited or just 99p romances that I read by pool at my aunt's house. So the first one, these are not in order, these are just what I remembered, so if I've forgotten anything then rip, because I wasn't looking onto Goodreads during this time. So we have The Love You Deserve by Jen Morris. I've not rated any of these, I don't really remember what these are about, but like this one was definitely about a bartender, like a bar owner, and one of the bartenders that they've been friends for like 5 years, and then the bartender works at like a doggy rescue centre, and it floods and she has to like look after one of the dogs in her apartment. Like manager like won't let her, so the bar manager is like, well, you can come stay with me for a bit then, and obviously shit happens. And I liked this one because there was definitely like the third act conflict happened, and then the guy actually like worked on himself and like went to therapy and like put the effort in, and like was like, no, I am a little bit broken and I do need to do some work, so like I'm gonna do that because like I can't expect you to do that for me, and I did appreciate that. And then we have In the Weeds by Bk Borrison, which was the second book in the series, and I didn't realise, but the first one was a Christmas book, so I wasn't going to go back and read it. But this was about someone who had a one night stand and then bump into each other a few months later, and like things go badly, and then the main character is like an influencer, and she's like not having a great time really, she's a bit depressed. And someone asks her where's like the last place you were happy, and she's like on that farm with that guy, and so she goes back and like, and this one also, there's no like explicit rep stated, but the love interest, the male character, has like issues with noise sensitivity, and he gets overwhelmed and has like a set routine, but he's also just like the biggest teddy bear. Like he has like multiple cats, he has like bedrooms set up in his house for his sisters. Like I loved him. I remember more about these books than I thought. Okay. Moving on, Marriage for One by Ella Mays. This is about like a business guy who is like, you're gonna get screwed over in your uncle's will because he put in a clause that your husband would get this property, but you're not married, and like the guy you were engaged to broke up with you, so why don't we get married so that your cousin can't get hold of this property that you really need to start your coffee shop. And it was a wild ride. And then we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, which I should not have enjoyed. This is about two people who are not in a relationship. We have our main character, and we have the main character's sister's fiance are kidnapped and kept in a basement, and things happen and they become like each other's crutches, and like it was a wild time, but I really enjoyed it. Like I shouldn't have. It was all kinds of fucked up, but I really enjoyed this book. And then we had Year of Living Blonde by Andrea. This one kind of irritated me. So it was about this woman who's like a mum, she like runs a bakery, she's been married for a while, and then her husband breaks up with her out of the blue, and so she starts like working on herself a little bit. She like loses weight and dyes her hair blonde and like gets some better clothes, but at the beginning of the book she meets like the love interest, and he sees her as like this frumpy, like unapproachable, like angry woman, and it's only when she starts losing weight and dyes her hair blonde that he's like, oh actually might be into this. And I'm like, no, you don't deserve her at her like hot blonde, you should have liked her at her grumpy mum like initial stage. So that pissed me off a bit, but he was like a grumpy astronomer, and I did kind of grow to like him. Plus he had a motorbike. Like, I'm only human. Okay, next we had My Heart in Pisciata by Kate Nielsen Ray, which I didn't really enjoy because we had like an accidental pregnancy trope in it, which is just not my favourite, but I did enjoy like the Italian setting of like the first half of it, and it made me really want to go to Italy, so there's that. And we had Rapsodic by Laura Thalassa, which is like a famous fantasy romance book about a girl who made a lot of bargains with this guy called the bargainer Desmond Flynn, and most people only get one, and she has like hundreds, and he's finally come to collect, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. She's also like a supernatural PI, which like excellent. Gave me like Lost Girl vibes, you know? Did you ever watch Lost Girl? I loved that show. Then we had The New Guy by Catherine Freeman, which was a romance about a guy who has a one night stand with this girl in a bar, and the next day she is his boss and he's the new guy at her like start-up, and this was also a lot of fun. What can I say? I had a great time with these romances. And the final one is To Have and to Hoax by Martha Wells, which is a historical romance, like in the same vein of You Deserve Each Other, which is one of my favourite romances of all time. It's about a married couple who were like massively in love for like the first year of their marriage, and then they had an argument, and it's been 4 years and they've like not really spoken, like everything's icy, like they were like massively in love, and then they just stopped, and then the guy has a fall off a horse and the guy's friend sends a letter to his wife, and the wife is like all panicked thinking like, oh my god, he could be dying, like what is going on? And then the wife rushes to find out if he's okay, and they meet in the middle because he's left the country estate, and they meet at this like inn in the middle. He's fine. No one had thought to send the wife a follow-up note. And then she's like, I'm gonna get back at you and fake having consumption so you know what it feels like. And I loved it. It was fun. I actually rated this one, it was 4 stars. I might own it actually. I might have got it for like £2 from the works. Didn't even think to check. But yeah, it was fun. I had a good time. And I think there's a second book in this series, or a second book in a similar vein by the same author, that I'm gonna have to check out. Just popping in to this video to say that I also reread A Shiver of Snow and Sky by Ledecky, which is like a polar fantasy about a girl who lives on this like island called Skane, which is like super isolated, and her family like hate her and she is like too good for them, and she has like one friend and yada yada yada. She goes off to a mountain to try and save her town from the evil lights in the sky and the evil barbarians crossing the water. And I reread it so I could read the sequel. Then I didn't. Like, not sequel, companion. I read like 10% of it and then got a little bit bored and moved on. So hopefully I'll read that eventually, but not anytime soon. But yeah, realised I'd forgotten that. Now it's here. So yeah, that was the 20 books I read in May. Don't know how that happened. And like none of them really were ones I wanted to. Like, did I read the Ship of Magic series? The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb? No. Did I finish Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke? No. To be fair though, that was because I didn't like the audiobook. My plan was to listen to the audiobook on my flight. I didn't like it, so it couldn't happen. But I am really excited to read it. Did I read 4 BookBox books? Absolutely not. I read one. And I'm not going to make up for it in June either, so I might try and have another month like January where I just read pretty much only BookBox books in like July. We'll see. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and comment. Subscribe if you want to. My details are all in the description if you want to follow me on any other social media. And yeah, let me know in the comments how your May went in terms of reading. Do I know how to speak English? I'm not sure I do. Okay, that's going to be it from me then. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.